To really get into the zone, you need less information, less noise. You have to quiet yourself down. I know the system like the back of my hand. I know within 10 seconds whether I should be long, short, or flat in this market. And you need to know that so you can just let it flow. And that's difficult because sometimes, right now, you got your phones, you got this, you can trade anywhere. It's just everybody's so friggin' distracted, it's ridiculous.
Alrighty, welcome everybody to another Funded Trader of TradethePool. Today, Graham is with me. Thanks for coming to this interview, buddy. So Graham has been a funded trader, already trading in the funded account. He passed the evaluation with $160,000 of buying power, the extra buying power as we call it. And we're gonna hear his story because besides the fact that he traded the evaluation and passed it pretty impressively, he also got a huge background and knowledge experience in trading. So stay tuned and listen very carefully. So Graham, let's dive into your early stage, how you got into trading and the whole process.
Great. Thanks for having me, Michael. Yeah, I started basically, I've been trading for almost 40 years. A week after I graduated high school in 81, I got in the market working on the Vancouver Stock Exchange trading floor. Didn't learn much on there. I have to say that I was probably partying a little bit too much, but one thing I did learn, there was invest in people, not ideas. Okay. And then after that, I went back to BCIT and graduated at a 2-year program and then went to Japan. And that's when my whole life changed in the early 90s. I came across a book called Trading Chaos by Bill Williams. And I remember in the bookstore opening this book, and it was all about the mind, the last 2 chapters. They did have a system in the first 8, 9 chapters. And I just love this. This was just incredible. And I went home and as I finished the book, there was a course you could take. So I took the course. I received it in Japan. I remember, looking at this course and going, is this all there is? There's got to be more to this, than just what I'm reading. And then over time, I realized that, it's like being a karate and black belt, that there's degrees. Once you become a black belt, there's degrees, a first degree, second degree. And just because you know something doesn't mean that you can apply it. And there's a deeper meaning to stuff. You've got to put it into your memory bank. And actually, this is something that I learned, which is very important. There's 4 stages to really learning anything. There's the unconscious incompetence, where you really don't know what you're doing. You're not even aware of the mistakes you're making. And then the second stage is your conscious incompetence. Oh my God, I'm making these mistakes. And then your third stage is conscious competence, where you're starting to become good at what you're doing. And then the final stage is your unconscious incompetence, where it's put back in your right hemisphere, and you basically can just do it. You just know how to do it, So, ultimately, that's what I learned through the book, that your left brain has 2 functions. It habitates behavior. It teaches your right brain how to do things, and it problem solves. And the object of this game in trading is once I like to say this, there's to become a master at anything, one, you got to put your 10,000 hours in, which I did. And the second thing is that, you need to know the underlying structure of the business you're in. So let's just take the stock market. You generally know how the stock market works. My approach is technical analysis. So you got to understand what edges you're using. I have 5 or 6 indicators I use, plus the Elliott wave in conjunction of that. But then the second thing, and probably the most important thing, is knowing the underlying structure of yourself, and that is your belief systems, your self-talk, the way that you present yourself, and these are all crucial to really becoming good at what you do, is because if there's no room for denial in the market.
Yeah.
So I could go on. I'm just going to stop there.
Yeah, I love it. It's always great to hear someone with so much knowledge and experience just sharing, what you went through and the way you got into the trading world, and obviously across those obstacles along the way. So that's amazing to listen to. I'm sure the guys that just heard it really enjoyed it.
Yeah, good.
And I gotta ask you, one thing that you mentioned was like the 10,000 hours, right? That you gotta have those put this work in. And what do you think about today's market when it's actually super fast? You got the AI, you got algos, you got guys coming from COVID or even later, young kids in the early 20s, as we probably started, and doing it really fast, and not putting the 10,000 hours as we used to think or actually act before jumping.
That's a great question, because I was thinking about that the other day. What's interesting about that, and so I just want to go back a little bit. When I first started trading, besides being on the stock market in 87 and the crash, of 87, maybe your viewers might know that or they might not. And then basically through the .com.
Yeah.
See, the .com was incredible. I don't know if your viewers know the Stock Nortel networks. Probably not, but it was a big high flyer at the time. And this is very interesting. I used to trade for 3 years straight outside of a mutual fund in Canada, 6 to 8% of the daily volume. And I was doing that on a keyboard, okay? Not a mouse. My shoulders were up to my ears, making, 2, 3, 400,000 a month, but I was in the zone, literally in the zone. I sometimes did not know how much money I made because I was so focused in being in the zone. And then as we go on, we got the Great Recession and everything, and that was fine. And to answer your point is that I feel that the market had an incredible rhythm up until about the Great Recession. And then once they started doing quantitative easing around 210, 211, 212 in earnest, and then the algorithms started to come into play, not to the degree they are now. So to answer your question, I think that since COVID, I can see in the market in the first 10, 15 minutes that it's almost like a bunch of kids with a new toy. They don't know what they're doing. Like it's just so it's just up and down. And that was my strength. I traded in the morning, like in the first 15 minutes, I was like golden. And I've actually struggled sometimes because, it's almost like when I get it, I'm on. When I don't get it, you got to be careful because you could destroy your day right off the bat.
Yeah.
So I think that you just have to learn to adapt to that, which I've done. You know what I mean? And probably over the last, year, I've said to myself, just wait for the first 5-minute bar to close and then use your technique, your Bob, which is my Bonk's opening bar, which I use to basically determine, where I'm going to enter. And I kind of visualize what my first signal is going to be, how it's going to look at on the bars and anticipate that. So it is, and I love it. I love that all these new people are in. I used to say back in the old days, you're coming into my backyard and you think you're going to take my ball? No. And you're not really competing. I don't know. I don't know if you're really competing against each other in the stock market the way you are maybe in futures and stuff like that. But anyways.
Nice. Very nice. I'm going to quickly jump to your hub, the dashboard. For the guys that not familiar with, basically every trader that joined TradethePool gets his own dashboard. He can track his stats and the progress. I'm going to show it for a second, and we'll talk about also something super interesting because, as you said, in the past, you did trade one particular stock, right?
Yeah. And
this time I can also see that you're trading the same way. We'll go in a minute to the trades. But basically, you had 7,800 of profit target, a max loss, daily pause. This is the chart, the progress. We'll talk about that as well. We asked for minimum trades of 20. You actually did 118. And that's a nice one. Risk-reward ratio is 3, 1 to 3, and success rate 36. Now, scrolling down, you can see you only trade in one stock, right? Tesla. So tell me why.
I just switched over from
AMD a little bit.
So, but yeah.
So what's the deal here? I mean, you did it before. Is it the same technique, the same way you approached the market before? You're doing it on Tesla, on AMD?
Yeah. When I first started off, I mean, I remember trading about 25 stocks, you know what I mean? And then it just dawned on me that, I'm more proficient, at one or two stocks. And the reason behind that, Michael, is, and each person's different. But for me, I want to know the nuance. I want to intimately know the stock. And that's going to help me if I ever get in trouble. You know what I mean? And so ultimately, I just need to be confident on something that I'm familiar with. And that's ultimately what I did. In the old days, like I said, it used to be Nortel and a flavor of the month, RIM, JDS, Uniface, Celestica.
So you basically, if a guy that, a new trader listened right now to this video, to this lesson, and basically you're telling them, focus on 1, 2, maybe 3 stocks instead of going to the stock in play where you actually looking for the gapper of the day. You're typically focused.
Yeah, I think I don't want to sway people from, ultimately you've got to find your edge, and then you've got to back test your edge, and you've got to find what works and find what's comfortable for you, and then continue to do that. This is best for me. Now, I mean, I use the Elliott wave, and that can be a curse at sometimes, you know what I mean? But when I learned it, 25, 30 years ago, I used a kind of a dumbed down version of it. You know what I mean? And as I got more deeper into it, I went, oh, wait a second, we got to back off from here. I just want to keep this simple. And so why I'm mentioning that, Michael, is that because a lot of the times traders will look for trend moves. You know what I mean? The thing breaks out. And in Elliott wave, you never really want to trade a wave 4, so to speak, where it gets consolidated. You know what I mean? Where it's a range bound. For me, that was my bread and butter. I mean, oh boy, could I just go back and forth, and it was great,
Within that range.
Yeah, in that range, so that served me extremely well, and that's ultimately about getting into the flow. You know what I mean? In my day, I don't have any empirical evidence, but boy, I don't think there was anybody that came close to me when it came to intraday trading. I mean, I was a beast. I mean, it was good. But then as you get older, as I am, you have to adapt and realize that, just as you alluded to before about the new traders in. See, the difference is the ego is so crucial here, because the ego says, in my case, oh, this is where I make all my money in the first half hour. Yeah. But when the market gets kind of like an orangutan, you got to back off and say, okay, wait a second. And that took some time. That took some little bit of punishment, and that's what I liked about the trade the pool. I like the rules, even though, as I alluded to before, not really great about the 60-second rule. And then just the fact that I'm part of a community and there's some parameters. I like discipline. I like structure. And in that structure, that's where I play, and I can do what I need to do. But it's very important, I think, that your viewers, that, you have to have structure, you have to have rules, you have to know when to break the rules. And so, and I just want to add one little tidbit to that. Yep. When if you haven't put in your hours, it's so crucial that you devise a plan out of structure. And then as you become more proficient, you let your intuitiveness come in, your instincts. And to really get into the zone, you need less information, less noise. You have to quiet yourself down. I know the system like the back of my hand. I know within 10 seconds whether I should be long, short, or flat in this market. And you need to know that so you can just let it flow. And that's difficult because sometimes, right now, you got your phones, you got this, you can trade anywhere. It's just everybody's so friggin' distracted. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I can relate to that, definitely. But this is why I also, these days I'm focusing on 1 or 2 assets, where if you going back like 8, maybe 10 years ago, I used to trade those stocks in play, the gappers. Yeah. But actually these days, pretty much focusing on a few assets. Amazing, Rep. It was a pleasure And you're already, like I said, doing great on your funded account. I'm sure we will do a few more interviews when you get your payout. And that's it. For those of you guys who want to join us, just go to tradethepool.com, read the rules, understand where you getting into, and we'll see you on the next interview, I guess. Thanks so much, Graham.
Thank you kindly, Michael. It was a pleasure.
Likewise.